Utah is going to win the Big 12. Texas Tech, BYU.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome into Locked On Big 12. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. Thank you for making this show your first listen every single day. Could have been disaster, if we're honest with ourselves, this weekend in the Big 12. What if Kansas State ends up losing to North Dakota? What if, by some wild chance, West Virginia in that dogfight loses to Robert Morris? South Dakota and Iowa State were tied 7-7 at one point, and would it have been that shocking if Arizona struggled with Hawaii? Is it crazy to think UCLA at home would have beaten Utah? Actually, yes. If you hit subscribe, I get to keep my job. Let's start with a wild week one of Big 12 football. We'll debrief the entire slate from Saturday. Then BYU, Texas Tech, Iowa State. Here's why they were the three most surprising teams to beat FCS schools. Well, that's not a bad thing. They don't suck. We learned they're not bad, and that can sometimes tell us a lot. And we'll finish with Kansas State. Should they fire Chris Kleiman? Some fans are calling for that. Utah looked incredible. Let's start there. I just finished watching that game and blown away with what Devin Dampier did. I said it all offseason. What if he is another DeQuan Finn? What if he is a guy that can actually be a playmaker in the Power 4 level? UCLA is not good at football, but they're a lot better than some of the Big 12 opponents that we saw this week. And 43-10, that is a walloping on the road. Now, a bad road atmosphere. Again, there are so many things that go into Utah's favor, but let's not kid ourselves. 21 of 25, only 4 incompletions for Devin Dampier, 206 yards, 2 touchdowns. On the ground, leads the team 16 carries, 87 yards, and a score. That looks really good. You're a BYU fan and you go, hey, whoa. BYU's quarterback, Bear Bachmeier, also had incredible statistics, but Portland State and UCLA are two very different things. Utah had, inarguably, I don't think you can push back on this one, the best performance of the weekend, considering the talent of the opponent they were playing. Now, across the rest of the conference, I will give the flowers to BYU that they deserve. Give the flowers to Arizona. That is a 40-6 over Hawaii is shockingly big. I think a lot of folks expected after Hawaii beat Stanford for them to put up a fight. 40-6, 34-point win. Brent Brennan has something going for him. Iowa State beat the number 4 team, number 4 in the FCS team, South Dakota. Baron Morton isn't all systems go the entire game for Texas Tech, 67-7. West Virginia, turnover machine. They continue to fumble the ball in the first half, can't find their footing, still win 45-3. Then BYU, honor code violation, puts up 69 points, finishes 69-0 atop FCS Portland State. In that game, listen to these stats. 606 total yards for BYU, 51 for Portland State. Here is what's going to be a theme of the rest of the show. And this does kind of apply to Utah, by the way. It applies to really everybody in the Big 12 that won today, because no one won against formidable opponents. No one won against an FBS, conference championship contender or a bowl team where, like Baylor lost to an Auburn school that could be pretty scrappy considering Alabama's loss. I think Auburn could be in the middle of the pack, maybe the upper end of the pack in the SEC. Georgia Tech could vie for an ACC championship. We lost a couple of games. Nebraska, who knows what they'll be? Maybe a top 5 team in the Big 10. We lost a few games Thursday and Friday. But the Big 12 ultimately fell to where the Big 12 fell to teams that could be legit in college football this year. BYU, Texas Tech, Utah, they all took care of business against schools that honestly were inferior. The only one you were really worried about was Kansas State, and we'll get to that. We'll get to that heavily later. We'll really give you the rundown on that one. But 606 total yards for BYU, 51 for Portland State. Passing yards, 138 for the Cougars. That's not great. 56 for Portland State. Also not great. But 468 yards on the ground for the home team. And for Portland State, -5. 28-3. The first down differential, 28-3. If there is one thing you can do, and Arizona State didn't even really do this, to be honest with you. Like Arizona State was disappointing to me in their 38-19 win. That will be reflected in the power rankings that come out this week. If there's one thing you can do when the entire country says this team might be bad, like there is a chance Texas Tech is not a 10-2 team. There is a chance BYU is not a 9-3 or 10-2 team. There is a chance that we don't see Arizona State at their complete level, or that Iowa State doesn't continue their momentum coming off of Ireland. When people say that, and you're playing a sucky team, the number one thing you can do is blow out that team. You cannot prove your ceiling with a blowout against an FCS opponent. What you can prove is that your floor is not very low, that your floor is high. And there were Big 12 schools that proved their floor is high. Arizona State allowed Ty Pennington, move that bus, of Northern Arizona to go 22 for 35, 240 yards and a tutty. That's not great. Run defense, you'll see 29 carries, 89 yards for NAU, the Lumberjacks. That's not good. Arizona State, good run defense, not great pass defense. Sam Levitt, 25 for 39. I expect 25 for 30 against NAU, but 25 for 39, 257, 2 touchdowns, interception. We don't expect that. Now, the running game was there for Levitt, 7 carries, 73 yards, 2 touchdowns, but this isn't what was advertised. Elsewhere in the Big 12, you saw BYU give you what was advertised. They raised the floor on their season and showcased that they can win games at a high clip, even if it's against bad opponents, which their non-conference slate is mostly against bad opponents. Iowa State, number 4 team in the FCS, same thing. Rocco Becht, a man amongst boys. What I love about the Iowa State box score, too, is when we circle and highlight their rushing game, Dylan Lee. Yeah, you know, Dylan Lee, your friend, the guy that you know, plays for Iowa State, was their leading rusher in this game. That showcases that the Big 12, not in all of these games, thank you, Kansas State, and to an extent, thank you to Arizona State. Not in all of these games, the Big 12 showcase where it could really come through, but in a good portion, like that Iowa State game where you see a guy running back who led the team in rushing and you didn't really know his name, that is further proof the Big 12 is in a good spot. The Big 12 is in a spot where you are winning the games that you're supposed to, and you're winning by a lot. Where West Virginia was fumble crazed, was turnover crazed, they still won 45-3. That shows me things aren't bad. But that's a better takeaway than some of the weeks that I had last season, where I'd come sit in front of this computer and be like, you know what? Don't know what to tell you. We lost across the board. That's kind of what Thursday and Friday felt like. But we're back now. Undeniably, the Big 12 is back. And Utah, I mean, dog, Utah's legit. Like that was, I watched it on that TV up there. I watched it on the TV that I have here in this living room in the Airbnb on the Gulf of Mexico. I'm going to go swimming in the ocean tomorrow. And Utah looked really good. And I like that because I like the Big 12. Coming up, BYU, Texas Tech, Iowa State. Yeah, blowing out FCS teams is good. I'll continue on that point. This is Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by Rugiet. Let's keep you Rugiet ready. You've probably heard of Viagra, but what if you use Rugiet instead? This goes beyond the usual pill. It's time to be Rugiet ready. 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue, kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours. Stay confident, in control when the moment is right. Over 150,000 men have made the switch. Completely online, board-certified doctor, and customer reviews are off the charts. Use my code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE at Rugiet.com, RUGIET.com for 15% off today. Promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugiet website for full safety information. That is Rugiet. Let's go here next. I thought that BYU, Texas Tech, Iowa State specifically were very impressive this weekend in Big 12 play. Week 1, means that you're going to have a lot of schools that play FCS opponents or inferior opponents. You could be the Kansas State of the world. Wait, let's go back. You could be the Kansas State of the world, 38-35, your final score. Or you could be the Iowa State against the number 4 FCS team in the country, 55-7. The Texas Tech, 67-7. The BYU, 69-0. I will keep West Virginia out of this category, mostly because watching this game, namely the turnovers early, were ugly. West Virginia was not elite in their battle against Robert Morris, and I will not put them in the category of teams that actually impressed me beating FCS opponents. I'm going to double down on BYU being the most surprising team against an FCS school. I foresaw Texas Tech winning by a lot against UAPB. I did not foresee Iowa State winning by a lot, but I did see them controlling the game. They should control the game. Coming off of Ireland, they should have had more rust. And they had a 7-7 ball game at one point, but they blew it out. BYU did just a ton of things that I wasn't ready for. They covered 44.5. The over of 62.5 hit, and the opposing team didn't score a single point. And if you look at the box score, if we just hone in on BYU solely for a second, Bear Bachmeier, their freshman quarterback, who we're all wondering, will he be good? Can I be honest with you? I don't know I think Portland State's bad, but I don't know if I can emphasize the importance that it is for a school like BYU to prove to the country they don't suck. What we learned in this game, we already knew about Iowa State. We already knew about Texas Tech. There was a question mark shrouding around BYU in the Big 12. Do they suck? And there will be BYU fans who are like, oh, it was never, there's no doubt. Maybe there was no doubt in your mind, but you lose your senior starting quarterback. Earlier in the day, you see him perform extremely well for Tulane, and you wonder, did BYU, because of the honor code, miss out on a guy that could help them win a national championship, help them be a college football playoff contender, or win the Big 12? Then Bear Bachmeier comes out, and let's not confuse ourselves. We are playing a team that allowed Cody Hagan to go 2 carries for 57 yards and a score. LJ Martin, only 8 carries, 16.4 yards per carry for 131 yards. They allowed Bear Bachmeier to go 5 carries, 32 yards, 2 touchdowns. 5 touchdowns in the first half alone for Bear Bachmeier. It does, if I have to be transparent here, it takes playing William and Mary, but in a game where William does not show up, for a team to be able to do that, no matter how good or bad you are. That's kind of part of it. But BYU showcased they weren't going to do what Kansas State did. They weren't going to toy around with a middle-of-the-pack FCS team. They were going to blow them out. That is impressive. You proved to the country, Carson Ryan. You proved to the country, LJ Martin. You proved to the country, Chase Roberts, you do not suck. And now, had this been a 31-27 game, a Kansas State-esque game, BYU has more question marks. BYU has to answer more from me, more from you, more from everybody. But the Cougars got it done. There is no excuse. You cannot start losing now. You can't lose to Stanford and be like, well, this was kind of a rebuilding and regaining year. No. You just told me you're not terrible at football. We set the floor. We raised the floor. The ceiling didn't change a ton, to be honest with you, because Portland State's just not good, if I'm transparent. But the floor moved up. It's a good thing. Iowa State over South Dakota. South Dakota is the number 4 team in FCS. Now, before I go wax poetic about Iowa State, I should. They are now the legit contender of the Big 12, considering how Arizona State played, and this is the reason they're not in this category, considering the way Arizona State played. And when we talk about teams that blew out FCS schools, and Kansas kind of ebbs and flows in here as well. Iowa State, in these 2 matchups, the first 2 weeks of their season, who else? Who else do you put at number 1 in the Big 12? They have showcased against the number 4 team in the FCS, the number 17 team in the country in FBS, that they are, how you say, good at football. Incredibly impressed with what Iowa State has done. Incredibly impressed with their ability defensively this season. Rocco Becht, 19 for 20. Do you know how good that is? Very. Their rushing attack, Dylan Lee. I didn't know the name Dylan Lee coming into this football season. I knew Carson Hansen and Abu Sama. Dylan Lee, 13 carries, 81 yards, a touchdown. Iowa State was legit. Texas Tech. Now, here's a big question. I'm the whip around guy, right? You're supposed to be like, oh, I listen to Locked On Big 12 and know all the stuff I got to know about Baron Morton coming out of this game with a lower body leg injury was one of the worst things of all time. I was with no box score available for Texas Tech, by the way, per ESPN, because they played UAPB and all of America was like, you know what? Don't even keep stats. There's just not a reason to keep stats in this game. UAPB, it's not worth it. There is a point in this game, Baron Morton goes down with a lower body injury. That, I want to reiterate, scary, not good. I don't think he is the savior of Texas Tech. I don't think he is the Patrick Mahomes of Texas Tech. Who was the quarterback for Utah last year? The Cam Rising of Texas Tech. I don't think if he goes down, the season is over for the Red Raiders. The fact he went down, the fact there was a long rain delay during halftime, and you're already dominating the first half. Pretty much from jump, Texas Tech is dominating this game. You come back out. This is, again, halftime score of 47-0. You come back out, immediately go up 61-0. That just shows me Texas Tech is a team that will take care of business. With or without Baron Morton, I believe Baron Morton will be there the rest of the season. It sounds like, talking to Chris Level, who was on the field for Texas Tech, that Baron Morton is okay. He is good. You don't need him in non-conference per se, but he could be one of the sneakier QBs in the entire Big 12. That is something that I think puts Texas Tech not just on the map, but for the rest of the Big 12, you go, okay, they were already on the map. So we didn't put them on the map, but now we put them squarely in Big 12 title contender based on how they played against, yes, an FCS opponent. But that's what this segment is for. Who did their job against a bad team? Texas Tech did. Kansas did as well. You're in that category. But that was a few days ago. I've slept since then. BYU did. Iowa State did. Those are the schools that jumped off the page against teams that aren't good, but you proved you're not bad. Weird thing to say, but Kansas State did not prove that they're not bad. And we're going there next. Kansas State, what are you doing? Locked On Big 12. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. I go to FanDuel and I say, FanDuel, here's what I think. I think that BYU will score 75 points in a game. So I'm going to take the over of 60. I think BYU will beat their opponent, Portland State, by 63 points or whatever it is. So the spread of 42 or 48 is just, I just go and I parlay those, the over and the spread. And you know what happens? When I win, FanDuel sends me money instantly. That's the beauty of FanDuel. I love it. I go to FanDuel all the time and I use the app because it's super easy. They pay you immediately. FanDuel is the place to go. Visit the FanDuel app today. Start planning your NFL season. Keep playing your college football season. And there is a beautiful opportunity for you to win money. Yes, you. That's right. You to win money on FanDuel. Go to FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app as well. You can use it on your desktop or on the app and you'll be in business with FanDuel. Join FanDuel and do it today. Do you fire Chris Kleiman? I don't think so. I don't think that there's a world in which tomorrow you look up and you say, hey, Gene Taylor fired Chris Kleiman. They want to move on from the guy that won you a Big 12 championship in 2022. However, there are some fans that are finally off the bandwagon. There are some fans, Caleb, I'm looking at you, that finally believe Chris Kleiman should be done at Kansas State. This is a game. Can I tell you a story? I'm doing what most normal people do on a college football Saturday. I'm standing at the bar. And I look at my friends and I say, hey, if Kansas State loses this game, I have to leave the bar immediately, go home, and record an emergency podcast because it's insane. It's insane that Kansas State might lose to North Dakota, a 7-5 team. A 7-5 team last season in the FCS. Emaw Caleb, every man a Wildcat Caleb, on Twitter. Says it's no secret. I love Chris Kleiman, but he won't survive this season. This is it for him, going out with a whimper. Bob Trollsby, also on Twitter. The game in Ireland may damn well become the worst decision this athletic department has ever made. And that is saying a lot, considering some of the decisions that have been made over the course of last year. Kansas State should have lost this game to North Dakota. No two ways around it. You are winning the game, 31-21 at one point? I do believe that was the score. And it's like, okay, now I, as the guy who covers 16 Big 12 teams, can turn it off, turn on a different game, explore somebody else, see who else is winning. And then, oh, wait a second, it's now 35-31. And Kansas State has the ball and just got stopped and has to send it back to North Dakota. Let's do this. You and I have a conversation for a second. You won. You won the game. You're not 0-2. You're 1-1. Can we agree? You, Kansas State fan, me, Drake Toll, that this is bad? Can we agree that the Big 12 schedule you have the rest of the way, you will not face a team in conference play easier than North Dakota? Can we agree? I was promised. Can we agree on this? I don't hate you. I like Kansas State a lot, actually. They're one of my favorite programs in the Big 12. Robbie Triano is a big supporter of this show and a big Kansas State fan. Can we agree that you were promised Avery Johnson as a Heisman contending quarterback? And that same young chap, that same young Avery Johnson, just went out against North Dakota and almost lost the game. Now, if I ask Christian Rao about Avery Johnson, and you look at the stats here, 28 for 43, that's not bad. 318 yards, also not bad. 3 touchdowns. We can't blame Avery Johnson for this game being close. Hell, he went and won the game. Maybe. But don't you think a Heisman caliber quarterback, the quarterback of the future, the guy we were promised, would be able to help a team blow out North Dakota? Would be able to help a team come in against Iowa State and win in crunch time? Don't you think the Heisman caliber quarterback, the quarterback that we were probably the guy that we assumed wouldn't have his brother and his dad fighting in the parking lot where his father takes his brother and waterboards him into a puddle in Ireland? That happened 6 days ago. Don't you think that when the word Heisman's thrown out there and my expectation and your expectation perks up to the level that it has, we should expect more. The expectation should be higher on a guy who has been there now, who has been there in the program now. Yeah, he was good. Not good enough to blow out North Dakota. Your second best rusher, this is Joe Jackson, 11 carries, 55 yards. Devon Rice, 7 carries, 40 yards, 2 touchdowns. Do we think that the rushing offense or the rush defense, we can get to that in a second. Do we think the rushing offense, 29 carries, 143 yards, is just not there against an FCS opponent, a middle of the pack, bottom of the pack FCS opponent? Jace Brown, by the way, deserves player of the year already. I can already tell. He's going to be the guy. Couple fumbles. Avery had one. Austin Romaine also very good. There are pieces on this Kansas State team that I think, yeah, maybe here. We can return punts. We can return kickoffs. Maybe there's a shot this Kansas State team can find a way. But I don't know how right now. I don't know how. North Dakota's quarterback, 23 for 38. Kaminsky kid. Not great. Running the football, not great. They are advantageous. How do you let a low-tier FCS school take control of the word advantageous in the context of playing a Big 12 school like Kansas State that was supposed to win a conference championship? Do I believe the Kansas State, they had more first downs than K-State. Their third down efficiency was a down off. K-State 5 for 13, North Dakota 5 for 14. 354 yards of total offense. Am I supposed to believe? Wow. North Dakota won the time of possession battle. Am I supposed to sit here and tell you that this is the way it's supposed to go? You hired Matt Wells, man, as your OC, and the offense wasn't entirely the issue. And again, this is where it gets kind of like I'm in the weeds as the host of Locked On Big 12. Your defense wasn't exactly the entire issue either. This is more of because the defense didn't just lay a complete egg. This is more of North Dakota being advantageous where it was where they needed to be. Like, hey, this is the key down. This is the key possession. They would deliver up until the very end. That's where this game got hairy. It makes me wonder, where is the clutch? If you cannot have the clutch gene for 3 3/4 quarters against this school, how does it happen anywhere else in Big 12 play? Based on what we've seen in the first 2 weeks, if there's a school I have the least amount of confidence in, it's not Kansas State, but they're up there. Down there, they're down there. They're down there on the confidence totem pole. And I hate that because I do like them a lot. I don't think you fire Chris Kleiman. That seems dramatic. Don't do it. But yeah, not exactly what you're looking for. Not what we're trying to go for here. Beating North Dakota by a single possession and letting it go down like past the wire. I love the Big 12, so I care too much. I'm supposed to be on vacation this weekend. It's terrible. It's like if a CPA decided to go on a vacation on April 15th. Who would do that? Who would do that as a CPA? Bad idea as a CPA. Bad idea for me. But it's a vacation where I'm just watching football, so there's that part too. It gets me out of swimming with the manatees. I don't like those manatees. They're kind of freaky. This has been and always will be Locked On. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. Dose Grande.